Welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures That Outperform. We've been doing this fantastic series on jerks at work, and boy, do we have a good one for you today. The Inappropriate Coworker. This creepy slide really explains a lot about the show today. We're going to cover it. And in every one of these episodes, we tell you how to handle these people, what to do, what not to do. Very valuable information. We're going to go through this pretty quickly with you. I think you'll enjoy it. We have a great series. You can see how many different unproductive workplace people there are. This is the list of jerks at work. There are a couple of others we've talked about. We'll see if we add them. If you didn't see the needy, woe is me coworker, just a great episode. Narcissist, great. These have all been really good. I think today's a classic, but stay tuned. We got a lot of good ones coming. And so, who is this inappropriate coworker? If you've worked in business for a while, you've run into these people. They just don't understand the professional boundaries. They dismiss whatever they do with a comment like, "Oh, come on, I'm just joking," even though they know it's inappropriate. They want to get away with it. They create a lot of discomfort in the workplace. Everybody knows who they are, and some people are very good at avoiding these folks.
Yeah, I just hear it in their voice. It's like, relax, relax. I was just joking. It's always the same thing where they're just totally missing what's happening in the room. They're not paying attention. They're only focused on themselves. And they're totally ignoring all of the signs. Like people's faces are cringing, people's body language. Most of the time people move back.
Move back. No one wants to sit next to them.
Right. Everybody has that body language that's telling the person, hey, you're inappropriate.
Yeah. So let's get right into it then. So how do you spot them? That's one of the ways that people cringe around them and avoid them.
Yes. When you find that person that has no filter, everything that comes to their mind, they end up spitting it out of their mouth, sharing things that are just totally inappropriate. They miss all of the social cues that are happening around them. They really, just like I said before, that relax, I'm just joking. Or, it's always right after they say something just totally off the wall.
Which they know is off the wall because they're dismissing it.
Right. And they immediately dismiss it and they know it. They're invading your personal space and they're, here and they don't even sense what's going on around them. They're just kind of here enjoying the moment and they're laughing and, usually they're leaning in closer and you're moving further away and they don't have that filter and they don't really understand what they're doing is completely inappropriate.
And, there's different levels of these people. Some are really creepy and they love causing distress in other people. Some of them are just oblivious, like the people who go into your personal space. We were chatting about that before we went on the show. They'll step into your personal space. They do it to everybody. They get really close. They don't know. And it's just uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
But not as bad as this guy.
You feel uncomfortable. You feel like, why doesn't this person realize they're too close? Especially if it's somebody you don't know. A lot of times that person they're in your space or they're touching you, just even putting their hand on your shoulder or leaning in or just touching your shoulder. It just really gives you the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, because you don't like having that person in your space like that. And you don't know them. And even if you know them and you know that they're like that, handsy, and they just kind of are in your space, you still don't like it. It's just really not appropriate.
It's uncomfortable. It is.
Yeah.
And so what do you do? How do you handle these people? I'll tell you, if you're a boss, you got to address it immediately. Don't ignore it. Establish norms so it's specific what they can't do. Make sure you write it out. These are the behavioral norms. There's no touching allowed in the office for any reason at any time. The one we were talking about earlier, you can't keep asking people out once they say no.
Right.
Period. You get one shot. That's it.
Yeah.
And the conduct expectations, how they relate to performance. And this is going to affect their performance if they're not performing or conducting themselves in a professional manner in the office. Eventually get them fired if they keep it up, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're a coworker of this person, you want to name the impact. You want to be very specific and say that comment, that touch, whatever it was, that was inappropriate and it crossed the line. You have to be very clear about that. No kind of sugarcoating it and dancing around it and, trying to make excuses for that person. You really do have to be pretty straightforward about it, because a lot of times the person is so oblivious to their impact and what they're doing that they don't even realize that they're doing it. So you want to shift things back to the professional environment. You want to shift back to the work. Let's get refocused, and then focus again on those workplace norms, which if you've got a good culture, you've already defined the norms. You already know what we do and what we don't do in our organization. So it's easy to just redirect that person back to the workplace norms
Yeah.
so that everybody feels respected and cared for.
And, we've said it on so many shows, the power of a workplace norm is it depersonalizes this stuff. It's not that I think what you did crossed the line. It's we don't do that around here. Here's the norm. You're actually not, embracing the norms of the company. You have to. You don't have a choice. And
Yeah.
so the norms really, really matter. And if you're subordinate, you got to be professional. Don't get it out of control emotionally. Be professional at all times. If you need to document repeated patterns of stuff that's making you really uncomfortable, you got to document it. Eventually, you may have to go to HR if they're really inappropriate and lodge a complaint. But those are good, I think, very good recommendations on what to do. The key is that the bosses need to do stuff immediately. Everybody's counting on them to enforce the code of conduct in the company.
Yeah.
And then what should they bosses not do to her?
Yeah. Automatically, you just right away cannot ignore. You can't ignore the small things and say, oh, it's harmless. They're just joking. That's just them. You can't do that. You really cannot. You have to address it head on, because what may be offensive to one person may not be offensive to another. And so you can't wait for somebody to say that they're offended before you address it. Once you spot that behavior, you really do have to address it right away. You don't want to publicly shame them or humiliate the person. You want to do it in private, pull them to the side and just say, this is not how we conduct business. This is not what we do. This is not how we handle things.
Yeah, really, really important. If your coworker, don't egg them on to do more of it by laughing just to ease the tension, right? Because that's giving a positive signal that, hey, you're pretty funny. It's not funny at all.
Yeah.
Don't end up attacking the person. You got to use the norms to regulate the behavior. It's not personal, should never get personal. And if the pattern persists, don't stay silent. Jump in and say, look, that is just not acceptable here. You can't do that. That's your job.
Yeah, you don't have to be rude about it,
No.
but being very direct with this person is going to be helpful. You're trying to de-escalate emotions in this space. So you're really trying to stay focused on what the actual concerns are. If you feel like you can't confront the person alone, don't go alone. Take another person with you so that there's more than one person in the conversation. And definitely don't internalize it as this is your problem. This is their problem, and it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, that's the worst thing to do, is to, somehow take part of the blame. Look, this is totally them. They're an inappropriate coworker. And that's the value of these episodes. It just puts a name on every one of these personality types and allows you to spot them and allows you to know what to do. And so we've got a whole encyclopedia of bad personalities coming as a result of these shows, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And never conclude for 1 second these people don't create a bunch of collateral damage. The minute their behavior goes unaddressed, people's sense of safety starts to drop in the place. And we know how important psychological safety is to people who have to think for a living. It's key. You have increasing HR and legal exposure. On this board here, you can see there are a bunch of HR complaints that are coming in, maybe many about that individual. Teams start to fall apart. You get increased turnover because it's uncomfortable to work there. There's all sorts of stuff happens.
Yeah. When you have people that just kind of start to disengage, they're quiet, they don't have much to say, they're quietly plotting their escape. They're looking for, the way out, because they see that nobody is going to address the situation, and now they don't feel safe. And so when that happens, people start to disengage and they start looking for the way out because they
Big
don't
time.
feel like their managers, their leaders are going to do anything about it. They start to isolate, they withdraw, they reduce their collaboration, so they don't want to work with anybody. They just want to get out of there. And you really do see a lot of productivity loss
Oh,
because
big
that
time.
person is really trying to avoid the conflict as much as possible. And so they don't want to talk to that person at all, which in turn makes things go slower.
Yeah, it really drives down productivity. We had done a series early on about a few of these personality types. I think back in 2022, it was called People Unproductive. These are
Mhm.
really, really unproductive personality types that damage the productivity of the organization, of that team, of that group. People don't want to work with them. These people are very negative.
Yeah.
And so here's another person who's really unproductive. We're going to be going over this next week. I don't know if you've run into this person before, the don't bother me coworker. Never wants to help anyone. They're there, they build the walls around them. So,
Yeah.
this will be a fun episode. I've worked with a few of these people over time, and they are damaging to group productivity, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And so we're here every Wednesday, 3 o'clock. Another live show goes off. I hope you could join us, and I hope you're enjoying the series.